This session is going to be on emerging technologies and the governance aspects in particular. So we're talking about things like blockchain, IoT, robotics, and AI. So we have three speakers, and then, like I said, we will be breaking somewhere after 30 minutes for the tea, and then resuming the session. So this is to ensure that we don't lose time because we are a little bit late. It is not, we're not going to discuss the technology per se, because this is all complex technologies which take quite a bit of time to kind of understand. I'm assuming that many of you here have heard of these technologies, and you have a fairly good idea what it's all about. So I'm going to speak for about 8 minutes or so. Glenn's going to speak for, he's got a presentation on blockchain for social good. So it's one of the applications of blockchain. And then the third speaker, Indrajit, who's joining us shortly, he will be then giving his take on these technologies. I will, now my own background in blockchain is that I've been dealing with cryptocurrency and the blockchain since 2013. It is a continuation of my work with the darknet and so on, because these are all the same technologies are used, mathematical technologies of cryptography are used in both these cases. So 2013 I came into the domain. I started buying and selling Bitcoin. This is a hobby not to kind of make money or invest, but to understand the technology. Later on, I started developing applications on the blockchain using technologies like Hyperledger, Fabric, Hyperledger, Sawtooth, and Ethereum. And I'll briefly touch upon these technologies. Now, you all know that the blockchain is a kind of global accounting ledger. Why is it that the blockchain, what is so special with an accounting ledger? Finally, something that we've been using for the last so many years, ever since computers came. What makes blockchain distinctly different? And some people even call it transformational technology. The main reason is, please come. The main reason is that it is not that ledger technology is new, but every time we use an RDBMS, which is traditional technology, relational database like Oracle or MySQL, SQL Server and so on, these are technologies that allow you to store data. And these things have a graded permission system, whereby there is a system administrator who has the powers to decide who will do what, who can do what, who can create, who can edit, who can delete, etc. So fundamentally, whether you like it or not, there have been so many instances where, although the system administrator is supposed to keep the password secret, people have accidentally or maliciously got these passwords, they have made changes, and every day we listen to breaches in data. Now, breaches in data are actually slightly different than the database issue, but all these databases, despite the privileged system, can be changed, can be modified. Every single database that we have used in the past in numbers, in volumes. There are, of course, very fringe databases which cannot be modified. Now, the blockchain's uniqueness is the fact that, one, it is decentralized and distributed. The copies are there in large numbers. Secondly, it's cryptographically locked or sealed. Even if you make a blockchain out of paper sheets, you stick it on the walls and make it a blockchain. As long as you use the cryptographic tools, you can't change anything in the middle. You can't change the transaction in the middle. So the blockchain has really nothing to do with the storage. It can be on computer, it can be on paper, it can be wherever you want. But the fundamental, the fact that you can't change it at all. Now this aspect, that the fact that you can't change it once you write it, has deep implications. And that is what makes a blockchain very different. So for the first time, you can have a system whereby you're guaranteed that nobody can hack this, nobody can change this. And everything else is a consequence of that. Let me move on to, so the blockchain is global. It is it's a system, accounting system for transactions. You can have on-chain or off-chain transactions. Like you are selling something. That's a physical transfer of goods, but you can have a transaction made on the chain for this off-chain transaction. Or you could have an on-chain transaction. You're moving money from one side to the other. So you could have that also on the blockchain. It is open, public. There is a public blockchain now, and there's also a non-public, so-called permissioned blockchain, like Hyperledger Fabric. Is a permissioned tool. Can you please settle down, please? Yeah. So Fabric is a permissioned blockchain where, in order to get into as a user, you have to be first allowed inside the network. You have to have a license, you have to have a certificate basically, a cryptographic certificate that has a trust chain, and then only you can actually do any transactions. So this is the way, so these are actually slightly different paradigms. And when you say blockchain, it's not clear as to what you normally mean. So normally, the idea is that you can do a transaction on the blockchain, but you can verify it from anywhere else in public domain. You can actually, suppose I donate some money to the Chief Minister's Relief Fund. The money is going through the Chief Minister's Relief Fund website. But if it's on the blockchain kind of a system, and I want to know where my money has gone, into what has it gone, what has it been, what's it been consumed or used for. In blockchain terminology, we say the token has been burned. Burning is the act of consumption. So that I can check without this website. I can go directly into the blockchain, maybe using my computer or mobile, and I can check. So I'm not dependent on the website that I use originally. I can bypass this and go straight and check. So this bypassing of intermediaries is a consequence of decentralization. I can use any node, any laptop to join the network, and I can independently verify these transactions. Now there are several risks in blockchain. There is the financial risk, of course, of theft of money because it's dealing with money, cryptocurrency. There is this ecological risk. Now how does ecology come into this at all? The reason is that blockchain uses something called proof of work. I don't have time to explain it, but it's a massive competition in which some 10,000 nodes are actually computing a hash. And this is a very, very, very complex computation. There is no shortcut. You have to do random, changing a little bit and seeing if you get the answer. There are no shortcuts, so everybody is trying for this. Now, whoever wins it gets a lot of money. Every 10 minutes, something like 50, 60 lakhs is changing hands. I think it's 12.5 bitcoins, and each bitcoin is about 5 lakhs now. So you're talking about 50, 60 lakhs that is there for the take if you win this lottery. It's not a lottery, it's a competition. It's solving of a puzzle. So there are lots of people who are investing money, hardware, everything with this, and lots of power and electricity being burned. We have made a lot of advances in renewables. There are solar and all kinds of things. But the entire thing, all the advances in solar have been wiped out by the consumption of Bitcoin. So we have actually a planetary problem in the proof of work if it's going to be extended to other things. Now the next level of Bitcoin was Ethereum. Ethereum actually does use proof of work right now, but they're trying to transition into something else, proof of stake, which is not so intense computationally. So this problem does not arise. But at the current rate, Bitcoin is eating up a lot of power. So that's the ecological aspect. Social aspect, decentralization, and governance related. Now what does the governance really mean? There are two kinds of governance. One is the whole legislation. Government leader says, the last budget speech, finance minister said, you don't want cryptocurrency, but you like blockchain. So there's a separation of these considerations. And cryptocurrency is not allowed, really. It's not a black and white rule. I still have balance of Ethereum in my account. And when I started trading in Bitcoin in 2013, there was no law at all. And in the first year, I made a lot of money in profits. Not because I was looking for profits, but I sold this because of a family function and all that. And I was surprised to find that I got a lot more money than I invested, about 5 times more. And then I reported it to my accountant. My accountant says, what is this Bitcoin? I said, this is cryptocurrency, and he had no clue what a cryptocurrency is. He wrote to income tax and said, look, there is this revenue, whatever, capital gains or whatever you call it. So it is actually a tough thing because there's no laws. Even today, there are no clear laws. The finance minister has said this in the parliament that you don't want cryptocurrencies, but so there is a whole legislation aspect. Now, is it a good thing to have cryptocurrency? Opinions are mixed. I would say it is not such a bad thing. The whole approach of handling off-chain transactions on the blockchain is called tokenization. You convert everything into tokens. Although I don't have time to explain because I'm taking already too long, one of the problems is that there is a lot of money being raised from the market through a process called initial coin offerings, ICO, like IPO. There is a lot of fraud happening. Initially, anybody who knew a little bit of blockchain could make a lot of money by going to the market and floating a project. So that's one of the reasons where why the blockchain, people watch it or rather approach it very carefully. And governments are very cautious because people are going to lose money. Many of them are scams also. That has come down, but still there's a concern there. So ICO is one problem. And finally, I would also like to identify the fact that identity on the blockchain. Because Glenn will be talking a little about refugees and how we can use the blockchain to have their information. Stateless people, when they're moving from place to place, one country's documentation does not work in another country. So how do you have a universal identity for the refugees. However, the problem is also that if you take GDPR says right to be forgotten is every citizen's right. The blockchain says once you write something here, it can never be deleted. Now we have a contradiction there. On the one hand, the law says you have to delete information on a person, and the blockchain guarantees that it will never be deleted. So how do you reconcile this? It is still a grey area. Europe is still kind of trying to figure out how to handle this. But the initial response seems to be that you should take out personal information from the blockchain, take it on side chains, take it on other ways, put the hash, put it in IPFS. I don't want to now get into that part, but it's a kind of global database distributed when a piece of data is kind of broken into parts and put into different computers, etc., etc. Do not put personal data on the blockchain. But that again goes against the whole refugee angle, because you're arguing that refugees' information should go on the blockchain. So there's a privacy conflict here, there's a GDPR issue here with the blockchain which needs to be resolved. With that, I'll quickly go on to AI and robotics and IoT. Now these are algorithms. There is a fundamentally an ethical issue here. A lot of people have raised it you have an autonomous car, it goes and kills somebody, who's liable? The ethical aspect is also important in the sense that when a bunch of programmers write code for a car, which is going to drive itself, what is the liability on the programmer side? Right now, programmers are immune from many of these things. If a civil engineer builds a bridge, it collapses, he's liable for prosecution. If a programmer writes code and it kills a person, the programmer is not liable right now. The companies, well, I don't know, these are gray areas. These have to be debated and discussed and kind of brought out. There's also this dehumanization angle. Algorithms basically replace human beings in taking decisions. And they're kind of mindless. For example, there's a very famous case of Google photographs. In 2015, there was this black couple who were having their engagement ceremony. They took a lot of photographs, and the algorithm was classifying these pictures automatically. And in one bunch of photographs, low light photographs, the algorithm, all the people in the engagement, they just labeled as gorillas. Now there's a huge uproar when that happened. So now imagine if an algorithm is used by the government of India to allocate loans from people who apply. So there's an exact same case that happened again in the US of loans. Because it's a very simple process, there is a form to be filled up, and earlier it was a human being going through the form. Now it's an algorithm going through the form. And the algorithm decides, okay, should we give the loan or not? And after about 100 or 200 loans were given, they analyzed the pattern of who got the loans finally. And then it is found that there's a persistent bias against black people in terms of who got the loan, who didn't get the loan. Although there was no field in the input form called black or white. Now that actually raises quite alarming questions. How did then the computer decide that blacks are not, that information is not there at all? It turns out that the whole system was biased. So when you take this big data, AI is based on data. You have to give it you have to feed it a lot of data to calibrate that model. And only then it can start kind of computing and giving you reductions. So the model itself was biased. So this bias is an inherent part of the algorithms. How do you kind of de-bias the legal liability of wealth distribution? Who makes all the money from AI and robotics and all that? It is not an ethical problem, but it is an economical problem. It's a social problem as well. Something that we have to discuss about. Privacy privacy is important in AI also. Like IoT, there is a question about IoT, which generates a large amount of data. But data without, like you put a camera here, that generates data. It doesn't take your permission. If you walk down the corridor, you're automatically, your picture is taken. So that it generates data, and privacy is a problem, and GDPR does enter the picture. So these are some of the issues, and I would just like to say that the way that people have handled it is that they see the three-tier kind of model to look at these issues. One is a technical layer, other is the ethical layer, and third is the social and legal layer. These are the three layers that they are using to analyze these problems, particularly in AI and IoT. So I would stop here, and since you have a break in the middle, I'd like to ask Glenn to go ahead with the presentation. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to, for the record, I don't want anybody to ask me at lunch if the food is too spicy. My wife of almost 40 years is Indian, so I've had a lot of Indian food. So I just wanted for the record that I've had a few Indian meals. Okay, folks, we're going to talk about blockchain for social good, and my esteemed colleague has already alluded to the fact that there's definitely issues that we have to address. It's not just the technology is not benign. And since he brought up a race issue, I remember with my wife's family, we went to a restaurant in New Jersey, and on the one side was all the black people, and on the one side was all the white people. And I went up and I said, I need a table for 7 people. And she says to me, where's the other 6? And they were right beside me. And she had a real dilemma, where to set the other 6 people, because the whites were over there. I guess she was going to put me over there, and all the non-whites were on that side. So she had a moral dilemma. So we have moral dilemmas with the software all the time, because as he stated, it's not benign technology. So let's get back to why I'm up here. What is blockchain? How can the blockchain ledger help the most vulnerable in the world? So I want to talk about 2 examples. One is I'm going to talk about refugees, and the second one is I'm going to talk about the unbanked. So blockchain can be thought of as an incorruptible ledger that stores transactions which are replicated across multiple computers on a decentralized network. This can be hundreds, it can be thousands, or even millions of computers. Each computer plays a role in making the ledger tamper-proof, thus increasing the strength of the network. This digital ledger maintains security, traceability, while cutting out unnecessary intermediaries. So what is my expectations of this presentation? Well, we want to manage, as we alluded right off the top, have realistic expectations of the power of the technology. We want to give you, as I stated, 2 case studies, and then we'll go on from there, and provide a simple unifying message of encountering this technology for more humanitarian development. Okay, so the challenge. Back maybe 8 years ago with IIIE, I was part of a group called Humanitarian Technology Challenge, and we looked at the SDGs. There's 32 Sustainable Development goals for the UN, and we looked at 3. And the 3 that we looked at, 1 was reliable electricity, 2 was connectivity in communities, and 3rd was patient or individual records. So the people that were working with patient records had no sense of working with blockchain. At that time, they were coming up with solutions, in particular the applications in Malawi and Rwanda and other locations where they had very large refugee populations. So let me just give you some of the challenges. According to the UNHCR, today there are 68 million people displaced, over 25 million are refugees. One of the things I spent back in June, I went to Kibera, which is one of the largest refugee camps in Nairobi. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 1 million people live in it. There is no infrastructure, right? These are individuals supposed to be temporary housing, temporary provision. What we worked on with ISOC, we provided point-to-point communication at that location. I want to get back to ensuring, we want to ensure that refugees' access to critical services is key, it's central, and how can accessibility be improved for their basic health care, their education, and obviously financing. Their lack of legal identity results in millions of these refugees being denied or delayed from accessing services. So one of the possible solutions, we can leverage the blockchain technology to deliver digital identifiers and can deliver the much needed solution to refugee identification crisis. Remember, these people are uprooted. They're not bringing their medical records with them. So we need some kind of system so that their medical records, their history, maybe even criminal records are actually transparent. So organizations working hard to improve the lives of refugees can utilize blockchain-enabled digital identity solutions as a means of understanding how resources are distributed, as well as to cut down on the obvious, the internet fraud, the data mismanagement, while allowing organizations to reduce their burden around costs and resources. Okay, so digital identifies functions as the basis for refugees accessing entitlements such as aid, welfare, remittances, donations, and healthcare. Remember, when you live in a refugee camp, they don't allow you to run a business. So there's a bunch of many of the inbuilt systems are against them. So, but again, these are some of the basic things to start off with. With each activity immutably recorded, a blockchain solution provides transparency and traceability as a process of record keeping. As data builds on the blockchain, information accumulates into the technology effectively provides a de facto foundation where information can be structured, reviewed, and utilized. When refugees use their digital identity to receive aid and support, they're also captured data of their activities, building a social and economic history. So it's a very transformative technology. So it's life-changing. With a permanent cross-border identity record, blockchain can be used for work permits, asylum, application processing. The technology could be also greatly increased to a refugee ability to work and give them the ability to legally access basic services, including banking, healthcare, and welfare. So direct benefits.
3 minutes.
3 minutes? Okay, I'm going to skip this slide. So blockchain has the capability to affect significant positive change for the future of refugees and humanity. Blockchain will not only emerge as an integral infrastructure capable of revolutionizing assistance during the refugee crisis, but it's also a mechanism that can be potential to eradicate it. So very quickly, the second example is services for the unbanked. More than 70% of Southeast Asia, 600 million people, are unbanked. So to speak, because of their lack of capital, documents, or status, millions struggle under status quo. So here's an example of a small migrant worker originally from Myanmar in Thailand using his phone in the wholesale market. The picture on the right is the two founders of blockchain operation that's based in Bangkok, which I'm hoping to meet the next month, and I'll do a short video interview with the founders. They're looking at ways of working with these individuals, providing which they lack capital, they lack documentation or status, but they have cell phones. And the early start is called Omisco. It hopes the blockchain technology can give them access to the digital access. So like previous companies like Facebook and Google, which were technology evangelists, these people are aiming, it's a very disruptive technology, as Dr. Christensen talks about in terms of his analysis, to transform society. The difference here is that these individuals here are looking at providing hundreds of millions of hardworking people. We're not talking the poorest of the poor, we're talking people which are working poor, which are victimized for the lack of bank accounts and access to information. So for example, say a taxi driver or a noodle seller in Indonesia or migrants from Myanmar, they would be the target market that we would be looking at for the unbanked. So according to the manager director, having the ability to transact money easily could be seen as a human right. So the reality is farmers, merchants, migrants, and factory hands are quite likely to own their own smartphones, as I mentioned. This allows for financial tech projects to radically shift the economic foundation of the region, become a linchpin for more than economic change, but true social change. So key features, my last slide. Low transaction fees, secure and trusted transactions. It's a major disruptive technology to the banking industry. There's serious challenges with this company, like any other blockchain operation dealing with the same thing. They're still trying to get their ducks in a row. There's no transactions yet. There's many transaction issues. So I will share with you the resource page. Okay.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Sorry to intrude on your time, but we'll have covered this rest of the questions. So at this point, we have a choice. We either break now for tea, or we continue with the session. And I'd like to take the temperature of the room by humming.
Deadly combination that we're going to be only going to see after 2030, 2035, nothing before that. So you have to understand how the complete ecosystem is getting stitched. Okay, so this is one slide which gives you a clear view of where your technologies are, what your technologies are, and how you're going to go about it. Coming on to the IoT first, and what I'm going to do is, I'm going to be taking the IoT, I'm going to be talking on your blockchain, right? Trying to mix both of them, how the blockchain and the IoT actually work together into your arena of your, day-to-day life. IoT is going to have a digital traffic which is 3.3x time the IP traffic today, what you have in the next 5 years. It's going to be almost 26.8 billion connected devices by 2020. There are a huge number of varying, inputs from various studies. So there's an average which I have taken. IoT security, which happens to be the most important now, is going to be 20% of the annual security budget will be devoted to the IoT solutions. Edge computing, your fog computing, cognitive computing, your predictive and analytics, prescriptive analytics is going to be the most important part of it. And 40% of the IoT data will be stored, processed, analyzed, and acted upon at the edge itself. What you saw, the Sophia, she talks immediately. What is it? It is a cognitive computing. And there are all IoT devices which have been put in it. So she is able to take the decision there itself. It's not that the data is going to the server, because it's an electronic machine. It's not going to the server. The cognitive computing, the prescriptive analytics is actually giving you all that. Okay? So this is how it's going to change the perspective. Your advanced analytics, your AI and machine learning are becoming the IoT enablers. So you're going to be seeing a lot of them. Real-time data from integrated sensors or external sources can be used for analytics tasks. You will see so many analytics devices which are going to come up. Stronger cybersecurity, is going to ease the IoT concerns today. You see Mirai attack which has happened last year. There were so many attacks which happened on the system. You may put the best of the security, but one device, if it has got a weak, link which is there, which is not patched, I can bring the complete city to the grinding point. That's the kind of challenges what we're going to face. And more industrial devices are living on the edge. So industrial IoT is also taking off at the same time while we are talking of, the IoT. It's going to change everything. Each facet of your life, you're going to be having the IoT devices coming up. Almost at an average, 6 devices are there per individual by 2020. When we talk of the civic systems, you're going to have your smart logistics, lighting, your smart water, your smart parking, your smart building, and you name a thing, you're going to have the IoT devices, you're going to have the analytics onto it, you're going to have the AI tools put into it, your data science put into it, and when I talk to it, is how I'm going to have the blockchain dovetailed into the complete IoT. Okay? Industrial revolution is what we're trying to talk of now, presently of Industrial 4.0. So many years have taken from the digital revolution to automation to computers, and now the Industrial 4.0 is taking on at a very fast pace. And what is the enabler? Artificial intelligence is the enabler for this. So for the industrial IoT, artificial intelligence is contributing to the transformation of the society at a rate of 10x faster and at a rate of 300x the scale. And it is estimated that it is going to be 3000x of the first industrial revolution. So you just see how it's going to be telescoped in so many number of years. And you're going to see the results in times to come. Right? Coming on to the blockchain, I will not develop on this because it's been all spoken of, but something very interesting. When we talk of the Bitcoin, 2009, when we say the Satoshi Nakamoto, 2008, when he wrote the paper, we call it the era of the Bitcoin, or 1 AB, right? Like what we have, the AD and the BCs. And the digital currency per se was not that it only came in 2008 of the paper. It was already lingering on in some form or the other since 1997. And today where we stand, 2018, is 9 AB in one of the papers which I have written. So it's like, after the birth of the Bitcoin. Right? This is all you know. Today, the Bitcoins, the market is 217 billion. It went peaked up to 750 billion a few months back. It's struggling. It's going to try and work it out and stabilize. What Bitcoin is, and what Bitcoin differs the blockchain, we have to understand that the main changer is your smart contract. And that is what we are going to put everything into the IoT to function. Okay, so we'll not go into the technology, I'm only telling you the words. And cryptocurrency today is only one of the applications of the blockchain. So it's all about data and the tokens and the proof of work and the proof of the stake. So this is what we are actually trying to work out when we are talking about the blockchain. We are trying to take out all the middlemen in between. Okay, it's peer-to-peer. To tell you today, two dynamic changes you would have known. Internet era, which came in our lifetime, it was more application oriented. Okay, we were never bothered on the TCP protocol or the IETF protocols or any of the protocols per se. We just bother about what applications to develop on it. Blockchain is the complete dynamics has changed. You see, so many blockchain algorithms have come up at the network level. So, lot of changes which are going to happen when the blockchain is going to come. Your internet, which is a client-server architecture, is going to be a distributed architecture in times to come, and the protocol which is there is the IPFS protocol. It's more to be distributed and federated architecture kind of thing. So, it's not going to be client-server architecture anymore. So, similarly, if you take that as a template, take it for all the use cases. So it's going to be ledgers all across the world, all across the organization, and you'll be able to function through those blockchains. You take a facet or application, blockchain is going to help you in that. Okay? It's everything is the POC stage. Like in the beginning of my talk, when I told you, don't go with the buzzword that everything is coming. It's not. Everything is either in the POC stage or at a conceptual stage, or very nascent stage of its development. Okay, so all your applications today which are there is going to change. But one thing which I need to warn you, it's not going to change the SAP application which you have in your organization. It's not going to change your HR system. It's not going to do that. All are going to happen is the blockchain through the smart contract can be made to interoperate all the applications which are working in silos today. That is how the blockchain is going to function. So blockchain is not going to change overnight what the codes which you have written all these years. 1 minute. Okay, I'll just close it. Okay. So here we are. Okay. What blockchain technology will do is the speed of digitization. We're going to have a lot of transactions and digital ownership from physical ownership which will happen. Your complete technology will provide a platform for the next generation connected world hugely, and it's going to change everything. And blockchain is still in infancy. Okay, it was that era where we just spoke of like, mom, I got an internet. Okay, it's same era we are at now. Okay, applications n number, everything is being thought of. People are actually working on those applications today. And the three key benefits using the blockchain for IoT are they build trust in the IoT, the application which I told you, they reduce cost, and they accelerate transactions between the IoT. I'll close it here, but during the later on the discussion, I can tell you how IoT, blockchain, or the industrial revolution, how it's going to happen, and what blockchain will enable the complete industrial IoT. So that will be a very interesting topic to discuss at a later stage, and how the cybersecurity is going to help you in assisting through your IoT platforms. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Indrajit. Can I request Glenn to be here? I think Indrajit has taken us through a very interesting journey through the various developments on the blockchain as well as the IoT and the integration of the two. And several issues that we have discussed today and yesterday, things like fake news, for example, is actually being addressed by blockchain-based technologies. And the IPFS, that's the interplanetary file system that was mentioned, is actually the basis for a brand new, decentralized, uncensorable internet. So the web itself, which is today, the fake news and all these issues that are arising out of the fact that there is no authentication process, is set to be transformed. This is actually one school of thought. They do not know how this is going to emerge, but a new web based on these technologies will remove the issues of the authentication, attribution, and so on. So with us, we would like to open the floor for question. We have time until 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1 is at the back. 6,
We have one here also.
7. Okay. 8.
Easier. 8.
8 is there. Okay, take this mic.
And it is working.
This is not working. The volume has to be increased.
So, who is the first? Who is the first?
First is there. Right at the back.
Okay.
Right here.
Shiva, you go that side. Adesh, man.
Okay.
So I have two questions. You mentioned fake news. So could you explain a bit more how blockchain is helping to tackle the problem of fake news? Second is, this government's got quite a push on using AI and it's trying to use blockchain as well. What are some of the areas in which blockchain technology could be used to deliver public services through the Digital India program? Thank you.
Would anybody like to
Yeah, I will take the second question first. I think that's interesting to talk about the Digital India program. If I'm audible?
Yeah.
So I'll take only one use case because there are a number of things which I can keep on going for that. One is the land record management. Today when you have your properties or in the villages you have a lot of lands which are there. There is no digitization of the land, and there's a major challenge by the government for the government of India to digitize the complete lands. So there's a project called a DLRMP, Digital Land Record Management Project by the government of India, which actually is doing the complete mapping of the land, mapping of the plots, and digitizing it, so that those can be identified, and the complete area of the state can be known as where you have the yield, where you don't have the yield, and all those things. Okay. Based on it, there's an agriculture insurances do happen. Okay. You are aware that there's agriculture insurance is one of the initiatives by the government of India again. Now there are a lot of flaws in the government this particular agriculture insurance, because people do poodle faking and they say I had peanuts here and I had a cotton on the land, whereas there's something else. So since we don't have the digitized lands, there's a big issue. And once we digitize these lands, they are to be like mapped. Okay. Now each record of the digital record of your land has to be identified to each single number. Say for example, we are two brothers. Okay. Tomorrow I have a dispute. We divide two. How do I identify the land divided? Okay. So the blockchain primarily help you identifying those lands, identifying two different people. Okay. Similarly, the complete land which is there will have the individual identities, and any transaction which happen today. Say you go to the Tahsildar or you go to the land record manager who's there. So all the processes when they happen, they'll happen through the blockchain and they'll be automated. Okay. The payment to the government, payment of the fees which is to be paid to the government, and all those processes will happen to the blockchain. So one of the initiatives, this is by Niti Aayog themselves, so they are trying to do it in now I think Chandigarh, I know there are 4 or 5 other places also. They are trying to work on the digital land record management in all those places and coming up with a pilot. So this is how it's going to function, and it's one of the huge application for the land record.
If I could jump in just to add to that question, it's a really good question, and land tenure gets me all excited. And I was chatting with this gentleman; he's interested in the same thing as well. To share with you one example of using blockchain in Jamaica, the farmers there want to export more foodstuffs, particularly to the diaspora Jamaicans that are in the UK, the United States, and Canada. And again, what's critical is not just the land tenure and who owns it, but food traceability.
Yeah.
What is the, because there's these outbreaks occasionally of E. coli or Salmonella, and they want to trace back to the individual farm where that contamination happened. Because the sooner they find out where it came from, then they can curtail the actual death rate and problems. So we have a real obligation as government officials to, for food safety. And I think blockchain is very critical. The other thing that, and I forgot to mention in my other interview I'm going to do in Bangkok, is electrical distribution. So you have smart grids, you have underutilized power in many areas. Remember, there's 2.1 billion people that do not have adequate power. Those are going to be connected by solar system or wind, but that distribution, that sharing of that power can be used in a blockchain model with battery storage and distributing the power throughout the community. So blockchain can be a very effective means of providing power, especially people who are normally were disconnected to the grid.
Thank you. So just to back to the first and the second question together, one of the things that the blockchain introduces is the concept of trustless computing. Trustless means currently you are forced to trust somebody. For instance, the government who maintains the land records. If somebody in the government manipulates land records, we have no way to kind of address that. Can we make a technological solution to this problem that does not call us to, the principle is do not trust the owner of the application, trust the application itself. And that trust is enforced not by one human being trusting another human being, but by cryptographic controls. So a related term is attestation ledger. An attestation ledger is a kind of accounting system whereby I have a document today, and I can put it on the blockchain and say that I can prove to anybody in the world that I had this document without even a minor change to it. How do you ensure the change? There's something called a hash, otherwise called the digital fingerprint of a document. You take a PDF file, take a big 1 GB file or a small file, whatever it is, you make a hash of it. The hash is always fixed, depending on the algorithm, it's a fixed size. If you change even one bit in the original document, the hash completely changes. That's a property of a hash. It's a mathematical property. So you compute the hash of a document like a land record, and you put it on the blockchain. What that shows or proves is that the document, suppose 10 years later I'm bringing out this document saying this is what I put on the blockchain. You can easily cross-check that by computing the hash. Computation of a hash takes, no matter what the size of the file, 10 seconds or 5 seconds. But cracking or hacking the hash will take you 500 years if you want to kind of create another document with the same hash. So the normal attestation ledger idea is that you enter something on the blockchain, whether it's a piece of news that you have, so there's a source for it. So the source for the news is identified from the blockchain from the document that has been put online. This is the fundamental principle. There are many tweaks on top of this. So since we have 8 or 9 questions, we will not ask the panelists to respond to every question. We will take all the questions and then go back to them. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Shashank. I'm a law and public policy advisor. So the internet is often called the greatest innovation of our times, at least in my generation. It has been suffering from over-regulation and regulatory issues by various jurisdictions around the world. My question is, in terms of a new emerging technology like blockchain or AI, broadly from the industry side, are there issues which are already sort of crystallizing which the industry thinks should not be hit by regulation in order to prevent hindrances on the industry? The context is, for example, China last year released a very expansive and ambitious document on how China could be the leader of AI by 2030. And one of the things that was severely criticized was how it focused on protectionism, on developing the AI technology indigenously while isolating itself from the rest of the world. And that was one of the criticisms, saying that this will not enable these technologies to really grow. The focus would be on scale over quality, and therefore it will fail. And the internet, for example, is also something similar, where a single country cannot try to control it and then at the same time expect it to grow. Are there similar challenges on the regulatory side that the industry sees which should be avoided for enabling the growth of blockchain and AI?
Thank you. We'll come back to the question. Number 3? Yes, here.
Hi, I had two different questions. One being that blockchain at the end of the day. Hi, my name is Samrit. So blockchain at the end of the day is just a database, right? Yes, it has some properties like things cannot be tampered, but it is a database, and we have dealt with databases for long. So when you say that it can be used as an identity system for immigrants, what exactly is it about the blockchain itself that we are introducing this topic now? Why couldn't we have done it with regular databases? Because blockchain by itself is very new and it has its own set of problems. So why have we not tried out an ambitious project like having an identity system for immigrants on a technology which we already have some trust in? So what is it about blockchain which makes it special? My second question is that since these are emerging technologies, what role do you think will universities play, especially in India, when it comes to developing them and playing a larger part in it? So, especially the tech universities in India, what do you think can be a collaboration model where the industry can benefit from the students?
Thank you very much. Next question. Number 3.
Okay, my question is Harish Chaudhary from IIIT. So basically, I'm thinking about the opportunities. Can we utilize DNS over blockchain rather than DNSSEC?
This is Mohibullah. I have two questions. First, how developing countries utilize blockchain in light of digital divides and internet shutdowns. And the second question is how countries with centralized model, internet model, deal with blockchain that has distributed governance model.
Thank you. Next. Who's in the queue? Okay, Dr. Gold will come. You can finish it. Yeah, ask your question.
I have one question on blockchain. Hi, I'm Sakil. You were talking about hash compute, which blockchain uses. Is it secure from hash collision attack and these types of attack?
Thank you. I'm Govind from the ISOC Delhi. My question is, one is you said hash requires a lot of computational power of, energy for each hash to create. And then if there is no intermediary, you said, in the entire chain, so if there is some mistake done by the individual blockchain holders, then who corrects it? And is there any dispute resolution mechanism there?
Thank you. Next.
This is Mohit from IIIT, and my question is, what happens when quantum computers are made a reality? Does blockchain and other cryptographic technologies just break, or what will happen?
Any more questions?
Hi, my name is Pankaj, and I had this question that since blockchain and cryptocurrencies go hand in hand, right? I mean, okay, so we can say cryptocurrencies are like a derivative of it, but yeah, that is the most prominent usage, and the agenda from the government is to have approve one, and while boycotting the cryptocurrencies, all right, while encouraging the use of blockchain. So is it something that should be there? I mean, approving one at the same time discouraging other, or there might be changes to approving both of them and accepting both of them equally in near future that you see?
Right. Any other questions? If not, we will ask the panelists. Sorry. Yeah.
All the three technologies which we have been discussing here, the IoT, blockchain and AI, call it from a fragmented scenario. So how is it going to affect the already fragmented governance of internet? That is just a question which I want to pass. And the second part of it is, what is actually going to be the futuristic technology? Thank you.
Right. So 3 minutes. Glenn, 3 minutes.
Sorry, let me pass. Let me think about this for a second.
You want to
I
start?
just noticed his sign. It said 10 minutes more.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah.
So we'll just take the questions, I think, one by one, I think.
We don't have time to.
Yeah, we'll have a quick one.
Yeah. we can-
Okay, this is one burning question which everybody finds that, the Indian government has banned the cryptocurrency, and in the same way they are trying to talk about blockchain. You need to understand that crypto is a token, and the value of the token is in dollars or whatever currency we say. And it's in the public market, and that's how we trade it. Whereas the blockchain is the hash codes which are there, and they are the ones which are being used for interacting as a smart contract in the organization. So all the organizations are going to use blockchain in a private mode or a semi-private mode. You don't have to be in a public mode the way we talk the internet today, or not the Bitcoin today. So the blockchains will be interacting, they'll have the tokens, they'll have the values which will come up. You don't have to use the token for trading within your organization. So those smart contracts will validate all your transactions. Okay? So that is how it's going to be used. Right. Something which was of the e-governance which somebody spoke of.
Yeah, there is
Hash collision. You have to understand, to hack a blockchain, you need to have control of 51% of the complete blockchain nodes. Okay? Unlike in the normal system, where you can hack onto one machine and get into it. So 51% of the machines are down, then you think you can control it. So that's going to be very difficult. So you can imagine number of nodes, and 51% of the nodes there, if there are 300 nodes, 150 nodes you have to control. So that's not possible. It's as of now. But there are challenges in blockchain, there are security challenges, serious, which we'll talk offline. Okay, then was one. The question which Mr. Govind was asking was
about who will dispute resolution mechanism.
There was something.
No central.
The computational power of the hash.
Yeah, computational power of the hash. See, it's like this. One, the computational power of the hash is on the data centers. So number of devices or the data center computing which is happening all across. And that is how the word, the Bitcoin mining which came up. Okay, so all those minings which happen, and then you have the hash code which gets generated. And dispute resolution as of now, nil. Because this is, there's no body, central body which is controlling the blockchain or the Bitcoin as a regulatory things. Country-wise, they have come up. Different countries you would have read through. Russia has come up, China has come up with a paper, Australia has come up, Japan has come up with a complete concept note on how the blockchain will function. India has yet to figure out what to do with it. They are still struggling. Other developing countries also, and developed countries also, they have come up with beautiful paper on regulating the complete thing, how they're going to function.
So I'll take some of the questions. The last question that Dr. Govind asked about dispute resolution. In the blockchain world, the resolution happens before the blockchain is recorded. It's called consensus. Every participating node gets an opportunity to accept or reject a transaction. Now, what is the central problem that the blockchain solves is called that is why the Bitcoin came to prominence, the double spending problem. Any digital good can be easily replicated. You have a song, you can make 10 copies of the MP3 file. Now, here is a digital good, a currency. If you can replicate it simply, and I can pay the same Bitcoin to one party and the same Bitcoin to another party, then you have a problem in the whole currency. Now, that is the first problem that the blockchain solves, that you don't allow this double spending. Now, in order to do that, all the nodes participate in what's called a consensus process. This proof of work is actually part of the consensus. Every node gets a chance to reject or accept transactions. The state of the entire global network is one. And this is the state transition happening from when you add a new block. Now, the dispute resolution, if you have a dispute, that is resolved before the block is written. Once the block is written, it is permanent, cast in concrete. There's no way to change it. So, the question of dispute resolution is to be seen ulta. That the resolution takes place before the record is made. Because once you create the record, you can't change it.
There's no scope for dispute.
No, after it's been done, there's nothing.
It's nothing. There's one case when Ethereum came up in the initial days, the code was not fully tested. Somebody ran away with some money, large amount of money. Then they had to actually split, that's called a fork, technically. The Ethereum had to be forked to get that money back. So they had to intervene. That is the only time there's an intervention. The Bitcoin itself, nothing. Nothing has happened. The whole life cycle of Bitcoin is laid out in that paper. So there's no change at all. The quantum computing is a good question because that is actually a problem. The elliptic curve cryptography used in Bitcoin and in Ethereum is susceptible to quantum computers. which, as he was showing the Gartner, the technology curve, the hype curve, it is into the future, maybe 5-6 years from now. When that comes, you are likely to have a problem with the Bitcoin. Ethereum is already proved, I mean, they have worked against to kind of prevent that from making an issue out of it. DNS, somebody is asking, DNS, the name coin does exist. It has not become very popular. And Ethereum is coming out with its own DNS called ENS, that is Ethereum Naming Service. Again, it's not become very popular, but fundamentally, people have first thought of DNS as a good candidate for moving on to the blockchain, as you have raised. Academy and university, what is the role of academy and university? Bitcoin, cryptocurrency is one thing that before the theoreticians could work on it, the practitioners have forged ahead. The theoreticians are left lagging behind. So they are now scrambling to catch up. The people are writing papers to kind of catch up and justify what's happened in the whole Bitcoin world. That lag is still there. So right now what's happening is universities are following rather than leading. Traditionally in the Silicon Valley they were leading, but now in cryptocurrency alone they are lagging. So hopefully they will catch up because there's some good papers now coming out.
There's something called a crowdsourcing development which is happening for all the blockchain.
Now remember, the entire cryptocurrency world is on open source technology. It's one of the cryptography, open source are the two building blocks, the founding blocks of this whole technology. Everything is open source. You can actually download the code, you can modify it, you can do whatever with it. That is possible. So therefore, it's like people used to say that programming is a superpower. Actually, it's been demonstrated with cryptocurrency because the Bitcoin, one person, you don't even know whether it's one person or a group of people because the name is anonymous. We're not able to trace the person, Satoshi Nakamoto. So he has written a paper and created an entire 1 point something billion economy out of nothing. Just programming. And this is a very interesting example of how a programmer can change the world. One programmer maybe. Of course, there's a community that's backing him now. The regulation issue is a big problem. What should the government of India do? How should they regulate? Should they say cryptocurrency is separate? Should they say the blockchain and the cryptocurrency are kind of together merged at the waist? The point is there is another side to cryptocurrency which we have not mentioned, which is that it is like the WannaCry ransomware. Whenever there is a shady transaction that the recipient of the money does not want to expose himself, they go to the cryptocurrency. Because in the cryptocurrency world, you're anonymous. All you're identified is an address. It looks like a hash. You can't make out who is this, where is this, etc., etc. So because of the fact that this can be used for hawala, that is money laundering, in payment for illegal goods, the entire darknet, which you're not touched upon again, is today using Bitcoin as a payment mechanism because it is untraceable, completely untraceable. So you can buy firearms or counterfeit dollar notes, counterfeit passports, contract killing services, all kinds of things on the darknet today. Darknet is actually, everybody can access it, but if you only have some tools. Now in that world, which is a very shady world, which is equally populated by criminals and police, and if you meet somebody on the darknet, you don't know whether it's the policeman or a criminal, could be either, maybe both also. So this is that world, and there the currency is Bitcoin. So the governments are bothered, they are worried about how it will be misused or abused. But I don't want to take any longer. Glenn, would you like to?
Yeah, I want to focus on, you covered a lot of the material, both of you quite well. But let me go back to, the issue that Satish brought up about how educational institutions are not providing the courses or the direction. It's such a rapid development that, educational institutions are trying to catch up. A couple of things I could suggest to you as something for you to consider is joining the ISOC special interest group on blockchain. And that's a very good group for you to belong to because what they do is they share resources and talks, online courses. And the second thing is join anybody here member of IIIE? Okay. There's a society, blockchain society, and they have a series of online courses. My understanding is those courses are free. So, and they're accredited. So if you are currently taking accredited courses through IIIE, go online and take the blockchain courses. And there's every other day I find someone else is organizing a blockchain conference. So, join those. So I think you're stuck. You're not going to really be able to get into a program if this is your pursuit, if this is your passion, whether to make money on these technologies or do it for social good. You have to sort of say, okay, who's doing it? who's teaching it, who can I partner with for the technology, and in some cases, like my examples I'm saying from Bangkok, whether on off-the-grid power or unbanked, you know, reach out to those companies and maybe implement it in India.
Thank you very much. Time is up as they're frantically waving from behind. So I'd like to thank everybody, my panelists here, Indrajit and Glenn. Any for remaining questions, please talk to us on the corridors and get your answers. I request Archana to come forward and give away a moment to Indrajit here. We are the organizers, so no moment for us. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to do another picture.